Whispers from the mirror. They say, a mirror only reflects. But what if it's a gateway? A gateway that sees us more than we see ourselves? From the east to the west, there are whispers that only echo after the glass. 1. Bloody Mary. Blood summoning. The story of Bloody Mary is as old as it is varied. The most common version involves a young woman who, according to legend, was either a wronged woman in life or someone who died under tragic or violent circumstances. Whether she was murdered by an unfaithful lover, accused of witchcraft, or the victim of a horrific accident, her death was brutal. And in death, her thirst for vengeance was unrelenting. The legend says that if you stand in front of a mirror in a dark room and say the name Bloody Mary, 3 times or sometimes 13, she will appear in the reflection. Sometimes she is simply seen, staring back at you with bloodshot eyes. Other times, she is far more malevolent, her appearance marked by rage, and sometimes even the reflection becomes physical, with a blood-curdling scream or hands reaching out to drag the summoner into the mirror. The ritual for summoning Bloody Mary is deceptively simple. The summoner must stand in front of a mirror, usually in a dimly lit or dark room. The summoner must then chant Bloody Mary 3 times, sometimes 5, or another variant depending on the telling. The mirror should not be disturbed during the ritual, as any sudden movement or interruption can break the connection. At first, nothing happens. The air grows colder, the silence heavier, and the unease builds. But as the ritual progresses, a sense of dread and anticipation settles in. And then, just as the 3rd chant echoes into the dark, there is a shift, a flicker in the reflection, a movement in the corner of the glass, something, someone, waiting. What many don't realize is that the ritual goes much deeper than simply summoning a spirit. In the darkest versions of the legend, Bloody Mary is not just a ghost, she is a vessel, a way to channel darker, more ancient forces. Her summoning is not only the calling of a restless spirit, but the invocation of a far more sinister entity that has used her name as a conduit for its own power. In some darker tellings, Bloody Mary is a harbinger of something much worse. The act of summoning her is described as blood summoning, a ritual that opens a doorway between realms. When she appears, it is not just a simple ghost that manifests, but a manifestation of rage, vengeance, and hunger. The longer you stare into the mirror, the more you open yourself to the malevolent force that she brings with her. The mirror becomes a portalone that connects your world to a world of horrors. Bloody Mary may leave the mirror, but the shadow of whatever lurks behind her may stay. Those who have dared to complete the ritual often recount terrifying experiences. Some claim to have seen her face pale, twisted, and bloodied as she inches closer to the glass. Others have reported seeing her hand pale and clawed emerging from the mirror, reaching out to grab their wrist, pulling them toward the glass. There are whispers of those who were never seen again, their bodies found with strange marks on their skin, or sometimes their reflection left in the mirror, forever trapped. But what is the true price of summoning Bloody Mary? The consequences are not always immediate. For some, the curse of the ritual lingers long after the summoning is over. It is said that if you summon Bloody Mary and she does not immediately appear, the mirror becomes a reflection of your own dark side, a mirror that shows the blood on your hands, the sins you have yet to confess, and the inner demons you must face. The longer you gaze into it, the deeper you fall into your own fears. There are countless theories about who Bloody Mary truly was in life. Some say she was a vengeful spirit of a young woman named Mary Worth, who was condemned for being a witch and executed in the 19th century. Others believe she is the ghost of a murdered bride or a girl who died in a tragic accident. But what binds all the versions of Bloody Mary together is the element of blood, whether it's the blood she shed in her death or the blood she demands from her victims. The chilling truth behind Bloody Mary lies not in her death, but in her desire for vengeance. In her twisted reflection, we see not just a spirit but a force of rage that has been growing over centuries, feeding off the fear of those who dare to summon her. As with many legends, Bloody Mary is not just a story, she is a warning, The mirror is not just a simple reflective surface, it is a door, one that should never be opened lightly. The ritual of blood summoning is one that has consequences, whether you summon her or not. In the darkness, where the mirror becomes more than glass, Bloody Mary waits. The mirror never forgets, and neither will the whispers. 2. Black veil on the mirror, a tradition and a warning. Introduction. The mysterious tradition. In some parts of Asia, particularly in Vietnam and China, there is an ancient and unsettling tradition that takes place during a funeral, the covering of mirrors. This practice is not merely a symbolic gesture but a deeply rooted cultural belief with spiritual and protective significance. The tradition stems from ancient superstitions about the dead, spirits, and the spiritual realm, where mirrors are believed to have a unique connection to the supernatural. The black veil, which is draped over mirrors during mourning, is meant to protect the living from the spirits of the dead, ensuring they do not become lost or trapped between the two worlds. The significance of the mirror. The mirror is not simply a reflective surface. In many Asian cultures, mirrors are thought to have the ability to capture souls or act as portals to the other world. The belief is that mirrors can trap wandering spirits, particularly those of the deceased, who are still bound to the earthly realm due to unfinished business or a violent death. The reflection of the living could be seen as an invitation to these spirits, an opening for them to enter the physical world. When someone dies, it is common for mirrors in the home of the deceased to be covered with a black veil or cloth. This is done not just out of respect for the dead, but to prevent the spirit from becoming trapped in the reflection. The veil serves as a protective barrier, ensuring the deceased soul is not drawn back into the world of the living, but can instead find peace and move on to the afterlife. The beliefs behind the practice. The custom of covering mirrors during a funeral is based on the belief that spirits, particularly those of loved ones, can wander into mirrors and become confused or trapped. The mirror's reflective surface is thought to be a bridge between the physical world and the realm of spirits, which is why, according to tradition, it must be covered to prevent the living from encountering the dead. In some traditions, it is also believed that if a living person looks into an uncovered mirror after a loved one's passing, they may inadvertently summon the spirit or be cursed by it. This is particularly dangerous if the deceased had a violent or untimely death, as their spirit may not be at rest and could cause harm to the living. The veil on the mirror acts as a safeguard, ensuring the deceased soul does not inadvertently linger or, worse, take someone else with it. A haunting encounter. The price of breaking the tradition. There are stories of people who have ignored the tradition and left mirrors uncovered after a funeral. In many cases, these individuals report strange and unsettling experiences. Some have claimed to see fleeting images in the mirror that aren't their own, or hear whispers when standing near reflective surfaces. These encounters often lead to feelings of dread, as if the spirit of the deceased has crossed the boundary between worlds. In one particular account, a young woman named Mai, who had recently lost her father, decided to leave the mirrors uncovered in her home, dismissing the warnings of her elders. As she stood alone in her living room one evening, she felt a sudden coldness wash over her, and the reflection in the mirror seemed to distort. For a split second, she saw her father's face, pale and silent, staring back at her, but when she blinked, the image was gone. Terrified, she hurried to cover the mirror, but the whispering began, soft at first, then louder, calling her name from the glass. It wasn't until she covered the mirror that the whispers ceased. Mai's experience wasn't unique. Many have reported similar phenomena. The feeling of being watched, the sense of unease, and disturbing reflections that seem to capture something far beyond the living. The most chilling part of these stories is that those who experience them often claim that the spirit was not necessarily angry, but rather confused or lost, unsure of its place in the afterlife. The warning: never look into the mirror when the dead are near. The practice of covering mirrors is more than just a superstition. It is a deeply ingrained cultural tradition that carries with it an important warning: never look into a mirror when the dead are near, especially during the mourning period. The spirits of the dead are believed to be in a fragile state, caught between worlds, and any disturbance, even a fleeting glance in a mirror, could have dangerous consequences. The black veil on the mirror is a symbol of respect and protection. It's a reminder that the boundary between the living and the dead is not something to be trifled with. The mirror, as innocent as it may seem, has the power to bridge that gap, and if misused, it can open the door to unintended encounters with the spirit world. 3. The Smiling Woman in Japan. The Legend of Onna no Kagami. The story of Onna no Kagami, the Smiling Woman, is a haunting and mysterious Japanese legend that has been passed down through generations. It is a tale that intertwines the beauty of folklore with the chilling reality of the unknown, echoing themes of vanity, the supernatural, and the eerie presence of a seemingly innocent smile. The origin of the legend. The tale begins in a small remote village in Japan where a woman, renowned for her beauty and kind nature, lived. She was known as Onna no Kagami, meaning the woman of the mirror. She had a radiant smile that could light up the darkest room, and her charm was said to be so captivating that it could make anyone forget their troubles. People who met her couldn't help but smile in return, as if caught by the allure of her serene expression. Her life, however, was not as perfect as it seemed. Beneath the surface of her smile, there was a deep, burning desire for admiration and vanity. Despite being adored by all who knew her, she yearned for more. She wanted to be the most beautiful woman in the world and was not satisfied with the compliments of mere mortals. One fateful day, she sought out a mystical mirror, said to possess the ability to reveal the true nature of beauty. The Curse of the Mirror. The woman traveled to a shrine deep in the mountains, where she found the ancient mirror, Kagami no Kage, or Mirror of Shadows. According to legend, this mirror was forged by the gods and was rumored to have the power to make any wish come true, but at a great cost. When the woman gazed into the mirror, she was taken aback. The reflection staring back at her was not the beautiful woman she saw every day, but a grotesque, aging version of herself. The mirror had revealed the hidden truth. Her beauty was only skin deep, and her soul was twisted by her obsession with vanity. Devastated by the sight of her true self, the woman's smile faltered. She demanded the mirror's power to give her eternal beauty, but the mirror, sensing her greed, cursed her. From that day on, her smile remained frozen in place, an eerie, unblinking grin. She was forever trapped in the mirror, unable to escape her own vanity, her beauty forever preserved in a smile that could never fade. The Haunting of the Smiling Woman. After her disappearance, rumors of the cursed woman spread. People began to report sightings of her reflection in mirrors, especially in old, abandoned houses. It is said that if you happen upon a mirror in the middle of the night, you might catch a glimpse of her smile, cold and unsettling. Sometimes, it is said that she tries to communicate with those who gaze into the mirror, beckoning them to come closer, only to trap them in her cursed world. Locals believe that if you meet her gaze and smile in return, you will become the next victim of the curse, forever bound to the mirror, a prisoner of your own vanity. The moral of the legend. The Onna no Kagami legend serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of vanity and the pursuit of perfection. It reminds us that beauty, both inner and outer, is fleeting, and that obsession with one's appearance can lead to a life trapped in superficiality. It is a reminder to look beyond the surface, for true beauty lies in the soul and the kindness we show to others. Conclusion. The story of Onna no Kagami continues to be told in Japan, and it remains a haunting legend, woven into the fabric of Japanese culture. Her smile is a constant reminder of the consequences of vanity, and her presence, reflected in mirrors, serves as a chilling warning to those who may be too enamored with their own beauty. 4. Hotel Mirror, the handprint that belongs to no one. Introduction. A strange discovery. In the heart of an old, eerie hotel located on a quiet street in the outskirts of a forgotten town, guests come and go, unaware of the secrets the building holds. For years, it had been a popular getaway known for its vintage charm and cozy rooms. However, over time, rumors began to spread about odd happenings inside the hotel, unexplained noises, strange reflections, and, most notably, the mysterious handprint that appeared on the hotel room mirrors. Guests who stayed in room 203, located on the second floor, reported seeing an unusual handprint on the mirror. The strange thing? The handprint was always there, but no one knew who it belonged to. The odd occurrence. One rainy evening, a couple checked into the hotel, excited for a weekend away from their busy lives. After unpacking, they noticed something unsettling. In the mirror above the vanity, a handprint, faint but distinct, was visible on the glass. It wasn't just any handprint. It seemed as though it had been left by someone pressing their hand against the mirror with a great deal of force. Curious but unnerved, the couple tried to clean it off, wiping the mirror with a towel, but the mark remained stubbornly in place. At first, they thought it might be some kind of stain or defect in the mirror itself, but when they mentioned it to the receptionist the next morning, they were met with a strange response. "That handprint, it doesn't belong to anyone who stayed here recently," said the receptionist, her face pale. The history behind the mirror. The hotel's manager, an older man with a serious demeanor, reluctantly revealed the strange history behind the mirror. It was said that many years ago, a young woman had stayed in room 203, a traveler who never checked out. The woman, whose name was lost to time, had arrived alone on a stormy night, and her presence in the hotel was the last thing anyone remembered about her. The room was locked for several months after her disappearance, until it was reopened for new guests. The manager had often heard whispers from longtime employees that the handprint appeared every now and then. It would disappear, only to reappear again, as though it had a life of its own. No one knew where the woman had gone or why she vanished, and yet her presence seemed to linger in the room. Guests who stayed in room 203 began reporting strange occurrences, the sound of faint footsteps late at night, flickering lights, and, most unsettling of all, the mysterious handprint that never quite disappeared from the mirror. The mystery deepens. One particular guest, a curious young man intrigued by the stories, decided to investigate the strange occurrences during his stay. Armed with a camera and a notebook, he set out to capture any unusual events. He made sure to document the handprint every time it appeared, but strangely, each time he tried to photograph it, the handprint seemed to shift, change positions, or even vanish. After several nights, the young man returned to the hotel's front desk, hoping for an explanation. However, he discovered that the receptionist had been replaced with a new one, who had no knowledge of the previous events. The manager was nowhere to be found, and the room had been cleaned and prepared for new guests. What the young man didn't realize, until much later, was that the hotel had been operating for decades through numerous changes in ownership, and yet the handprint remained unchanged. The story of the young woman, who left no trace behind, continued to haunt the building, leaving behind only her mark in the mirror. The handprint's curse. Theories surrounding the handprint abound. Some believe that it is the mark of a restless spirit, a soul that can never leave the hotel. Others believe it to be a warning, a sign that the hotel's guests are never truly alone. The handprint, which appears and disappears as it pleases, is thought to be the imprint of a person who died tragically, or someone who had been forgotten by time. Some guests have even claimed to feel a cold handbrush against their own skin when they gaze into the mirror. Others report hearing a faint whisper when standing too close to the mirror, as if the woman were trying to communicate, but her words are lost in the echo of the hotel's long, dark corridors. The most chilling aspect of the legend is that the handprint never belongs to anyone who stays in the room. It is a reminder that the past is always with us, whether we acknowledge it or not. No matter how many times the mirror is cleaned, the handprint will return, as if it is part of the hotel's very essence. Conclusion: the unsolved mystery. To this day, the handprint on the mirror in room 203 remains one of the most haunting mysteries of the hotel. Some say it is a curse, others claim it is a message from beyond. But no one can deny that the strange, faint handprint holds a power that no one can explain. So, the next time you check into a hotel, especially one with a history as long as this one, take a moment to glance into the mirror. But be careful, you might just find yourself staring back at someone else's handprint, one that belongs to no one. 5. The Father in the Mirror, the Whisper That Won't Sleep. Introduction. A quiet reflection. In a small, secluded town, there stood a humble house that was known for its peculiar mirror. The mirror, which hung on the wall of the living room, was not remarkable at first glance, just a simple, full-length mirror with an ornate frame. But there was something strange about it. It was said to reflect not only the physical image of anyone who gazed into it, but also a whispering voice, a voice that only the deepest of sleepers could hear. It was as if the mirror was alive, holding secrets and memories of the past. The house had been home to a father and his child for many years. His name was Takashi, a quiet man with a stoic demeanor. His life was simple, shaped by work, routine, and his love for his daughter Mai. But there was a sadness in his eyes, a grief that no one could understand. That sadness, it seemed, had a home in the mirror. The mirror's secret. The legend of the mirror was born after a tragic event. Takashi had lost his wife, Yumi, several years ago in a car accident, leaving him to raise Mai alone. The tragedy had left Takashi a hollow shell, and the only thing that kept him going was the promise he made to his wife to raise Mai well, to protect her, and to never forget her. But what Takashi didn't know was that the mirror in his house was not just a piece of furniture. It was a relic, passed down from generations before, known as Kage no Kagami, the mirror of shadows. This mirror was said to reflect more than the physical world. It captured emotions, memories, and, most chilling of all, the whispers of those who had passed away. As Takashi spent long nights sitting in the living room, the mirror seemed to call to him a presence he could never quite shake. At first, he believed it was just his mind playing tricks. But one evening, as he sat alone after Mai had gone to bed, he heard a faint whisper coming from the mirror. It was the softest of sounds, a voice he thought he recognized. The whisper that never sleeps. The first time Takashi heard the whisper, it was barely audible, a soft murmur in the dead of night. He thought it was just his imagination. But then, it came again. Takashi. The voice was unmistakable. It was Yumi's. Their voice, warm and familiar, yet distant and hollow, as if it were coming from another world. He froze, unsure if he was dreaming or awake. His heart raced, and his breath caught in his chest as he looked into the mirror, half expecting to see his late wife standing there. But the mirror showed nothing but his own reflection, tired and worn. Night after night, the whispers continued, always calling his name. It was as though Yumi was trapped in the glass, her spirit unable to find peace. Takashi tried to ignore it, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent. "Takashi, come to me!" One night, in desperation, he stood before the mirror, trying to confront whatever presence haunted it. He whispered back, "Yumi, is that really you?" The mirror shimmered, and for a moment, the reflection changed. Takashi saw not just his own face, but the image of a man someone he did not recognize as standing behind him. His face, half visible, shrouded in shadow, the figure's eyes seemed to bore into Takashi's soul. The father's guilt. As the days passed, Takashi's health began to deteriorate. He couldn't sleep, the whispers keeping him awake, calling out to him, haunting his every waking moment. The presence in the mirror seemed to grow stronger with each passing night, and Takashi started to question his own sanity. One evening, as Takashi stared into the mirror, the voice spoke again, this time more clearly, more forcefully. "You left me behind." The words struck Takashi like a thunderbolt. He had never truly forgiven himself for the accident. The guilt that had plagued him for years now found its voice in the whispers. He had been driving the car that night. He had been distracted. He had been the one to blame for Yumi's death, and the mirror knew it. He reached out toward the glass, his fingers trembling as they brushed the surface. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I never meant to let you go." The unforgiving reflection. But the mirror offered no comfort. The figure of the man, now fully visible in the reflection, stepped forward, his face twisted into a cruel grin. Takashi gasped, realizing that the man was not Yumi's spirit at all. It was the figure of a Stranjera figure that had been haunting the mirror for generations. The mirror, Takashi realized, was not just a vessel for Yumi's spirit. It was a prison for the ghosts of the past, a place where the guilt of the living and the dead collided. And the whispers that came from it were not just echoes of those who had passed. They were warnings to those who could not forgive themselves. Takashi backed away from the mirror, his heart pounding. He realized that the whisper would never sleep. It would always be there, calling out to him, reminding him of his failings, his mistakes, and the ghosts he could never escape. Conclusion: the endless whisper. The mirror remains in Takashi's home, unchanged, hanging in the living room where it always has. But Takashi, a broken man, no longer stands before it. He no longer hears the whispers. The mirror, it seems, has claimed him as its own, his guilt forever etched in its surface, trapped in the reflection that will never sleep. And so, the legend of the father in the mirror lives on, a warning to all who gaze too long into their own reflections. For in the silence of the night, when the world is asleep, the mirror will whisper not just the voices of the past, but the ones that will never forgive themselves. This story is not just a warning about the hidden power of the spirit world, but also a reflection of deep-rooted beliefs and ancient traditions in Eastern culture. A mirror is not merely a household object, it is a gateway between two realms, where the living and the dead can intersect, and that intersection is not always peaceful. If you look into a mirror at night and see someone who isn't you, don't ask, don't breathe, because once they know you've seen them, they won't leave. Before they see you again, subscribe to the channel,